provided by
Hi, I'm Cheryl Lee Ralph.
And I'm Lisa Ann Walter.
And we are spilling the ET.
Tomorrow, the Abbott Elementary Besties kick off our new series, and it is everything.
It's a perfect blendship. I cannot believe she just got me to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, I can watch them together all day.
They're so much fun. Now, before we go.
Happening now.
A truck crashes into a pedestrian bridge, causing it to collapse in the middle of a busy West Side street. Coming right up, we'll tell you what people who live and work here are saying about this incident.
Some noticeable changes headed our way for tomorrow. It's going to be warmer. We'll talk about how warm and where, along with gusty winds just for part of the day. We'll get into those details and some dampness ahead in just a few.
Plus, it's a parent alert. Baby food formula once again being recalled. We're going to tell you which brand to avoid. Also, grills that potentially could explode being recalled. The news at 5 starts right now.
But first at 5, we've got breaking news from the northeast side. San Antonio police officers at the scene of a fatal shooting. This is at the Blue Vine apartment complex on North Van Diver Road, which is between Eisenhower and Austin Highway.
An officer at the scene is telling us that the man was found dead in the back of this parking lot. They say someone else called to report it in, but right now they don't have anyone in custody. SAPD still investigating.
It turns out it was a bridge too small. A dump truck too tall to pass under a pedestrian bridge not only crashes into it, destroys it in the process.
That bridge had been at 1900 Castroville Road for decades. Now it's rubble. RJ Marquez with nearby residents who say this accident caused a big loss to the neighborhood.
It was an icon. It's something that you live with, you grow up, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Richard Herrera grew up on the west side when this pedestrian bridge was built in the 1970s.
It was there for, like I said, for the youth and maybe the elderly people who could cross and be safe without having to cross Castroville Road, which is very dangerous.
Around 8:30 in the morning, San Antonio police say the driver of a dump truck working on the road did not lower the truck's bed, clipping the bridge and causing it to collapse on the road. Some of the rubble and debris damaged a fence right next to an outside playground at the Madonna Child Center. No children were playing there at the time.
Somebody sent me pictures of it, texting pictures of it that it collapsed. Fortunately, none of our children were in the play area, so thank God for that.
Roger Caballero is the executive director of the center and says the bridge is used by many people to get to school or work.
For the children who live on that side of the property who have access to come over the street and then go into this the school, the elementary school that's right next door to our center.
Herrera says the bridge is important for the foot traffic in the neighborhood and hopes it can be replaced.
But it got constructed and it served a purpose, and this morning when we found out they knocked it down, to me it's an incredible thing. It kind of just brings to light the reality that, yeah, this is a very real situation for us.
All right, I'm back out here live, guys. So this is a live look at Castroville Road right now. You can see that crews, for the most part, have cleared out all the debris and rubble that was on this street earlier here today. There's a street sweeper back there that's just finishing up some things here in the area. Now, this street here caused a closure between 36th Street and General McMullen Drive for hours as crews worked on clearing out the road. Now, police tell us that this driver was cited for two things: over height and striking a bridge or an overpass. But again, that driver was okay, and fortunately, no one was walking on this pedestrian bridge at the time. Reporting from the west side, RJ Marquez, KSAT 12 News.
Thank you, RJ. Let's see if they can get it rebuilt. We have some new information about a man who was killed while crossing the highway yesterday. He's now been identified as Liam Nguyen. According to Castle Hills Police, Nguyen was crossing Loop 410 near the Blanco and Military exit at around 4 o'clock yesterday morning. He was hit by a driver. That person tried to help, but Nguyen did not survive.
A man in the hospital after he was shot in the leg last night. It happened around midnight along Somerset Road and Cree Street.
San Antonio police officers say the man was riding his bike when someone pulled up beside him, then fired shots from inside the car. The victim was helped by a Good Samaritan, his condition unknown, and no one has been arrested.
Another arrest, though, made in a plot that involved impersonating a police officer and robbing people at gunpoint. This happened in Lytle back in July. 19-year-old Bruno Alfonso Romo arrested yesterday in connection with that plot. He and 19-year-old David Morales accused in a bogus traffic stop where they forced a man and woman onto the side of the road and zip-tied their hands. The man's gun and jewelry taken before a real Lytle police officer discovered what was happening. During the investigation, officers linked Romo to the crime based on the car they left the scene in. He and Morales are facing multiple charges tonight.
This is not what parents of babies want to hear. There is yet another formula recall.
Yeah, 12 on your side's Marilyn Moore. It says this time it's only for certain batches of Enfamil. That tops today's recall roundup.
This is the formula to check for Enfamil Pro Sobe Simply Plant-Based Infant Formula. 145,000 cans are recalled because of possible cross-contamination with Chronobacter bacteria. No illnesses have been reported, but it can be deadly to babies. The recall is limited to certain cans. Look for the use-by date, March 1, 2024. The other codes are on our website. This trendy insulated water bottle is recalled. Bindle social media says they're recalling Sip and Stash bottles. This comes after Consumer Reports tests found alarmingly high lead levels in the bottom snack section. The company is providing a fix. If the kids have these small vinyl Disney characters, listen up. Kids Preferred is recalling 16,000 of them because parts can come off and a child could choke on them. The company is giving refunds. And Paradise Grills is recalling 18,000 first-generation outdoor kitchens after 2 explosions that caused serious burns. The problem is liquid propane gas can accumulate inside the closed lid or cabinet. The company is asking its Texas customers to contact them as soon as possible to schedule a repair. Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
Today, people in Ohio voicing their concerns about the water quality and safety following that train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, more than 2 weeks ago. It happened at a health clinic set up to try to help those residents move forward. As ABC's Rena Roy explains, leaders of the EPA and the governor are reassuring residents that water is safe to drink. They're taking their own words for it as well.
People in East Palestine, Ohio, taking their concerns right to the top.
There's so much uncertainty about it, and that really gets to me emotionally. We need to feel that we're safe.
Caroline Brown speaking with the governor of Ohio and the EPA administrator in her kitchen, asking a question that's been on the minds of many after complaints of skin, eye, and throat irritation.
So it's safe to drink the water?
Water's safe.
I haven't even brushed my teeth with it.
No.
In an attempt to provide some reassurance,
Here's to you.
officials sipping water from her tap, saying tests have proven it's okay to drink and that the air is also safe.
We know things are all right now, and we just need to make sure that in the future they're all right.
A long road to recovery that's only just begun, more than 2 weeks after the fiery train crash that spread toxic chemicals. The Biden administration calling for new regulations, including increased inspections on routes trains use to transport toxic chemicals.
We are pushing forward a 3-part drive on rail safety. Things that we're doing at the Department of Transportation to raise the bar, things that we need help from Congress to do in order to hold rail companies accountable, and things that this industry needs to do differently.
The EPA ordering the train company Norfolk Southern to conduct all necessary actions associated with the derailment. The company's CEO vowing to do what it takes to make things right, including paying for the cleanup and putting $1 million into a recovery fund for residents. A health clinic opened to the public on Tuesday where people can ask experts their medical questions. It's staffed with members of the Ohio Department of Health, the CDC, and HHS. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
It's really not looking too bad out there right now, especially with weather like this. US 281 at St. Mary's Street. A lot of traffic seems to be backing up a little bit headed northbound, but pretty light headed to the south. Nice weather out there, Adam.
Yeah, it's very spring-like. I mean, check this out. 85 degrees, our high temperature today. The average is 69, the record 100. back in 1996. So far from record-breaking, but still unseasonably warm. 89 Eagle Pass and Floresville, for the most part, we're just in the 80s all across our area, from 82 in Bulverde to 84 now in Seguin. And this evening, warm, humid, and breezy. You will notice that south-southeasterly wind at 10 to 20 miles per hour and some fog developing again toward tomorrow morning. Warm temperatures overnight in the 60s. Some noticeable changes we need to talk about for tomorrow, and if there's any hope of rain despite some dampness coming right up.
Thank you, Adam. The internet as we know it could be at stake, and some are arguing that it would be a good change. The Supreme Court now hearing back-to-back cases that challenge what is legal online speech, plus how social media companies can moderate their content. Well, Chris Wynn with the battle before the judges and why some are saying they are not qualified to make that decision.
At the Supreme Court, the battle over free expression online is coming to a head.
The way the internet works today may fundamentally change as a result of what the Supreme Court decides.
This week, 2 cases are being heard, and the outcomes could determine whether tech platforms and social media companies can be sued for recommending content to their users or for supporting acts of international terrorism by hosting terrorist content.
We have this very rare instance where a lot of people in D.C. agree that something needs to be done. They haven't been able to meet that point where they can actually agree on the answer.
At the heart of it all, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, a 27-year-old federal law that protects websites like Google, Twitter, and others from lawsuits over what their users post online. Some Democrats, including President Joe Biden, say it prevents tech giants from being held accountable for spreading misinformation and hate speech. But many Republicans allege that it gives big tech a license to censor conservative viewpoints.
The Supreme Court's ruling exposes how vulnerable the internet is to regulatory interventions and how at risk we are of being faced with a very different internet.
Some experts question if the justices are equipped to make a sound decision, partly because they don't use social media enough to fully understand it.
It's a structural problem with Supreme Court that when they make legislative-like decisions, they don't have the expertise the legislature has, and they don't hear from all the people that might be affected.
Potentially adding to an uncertain playbook over how to regulate online speech. In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn reporting.
Today, President Joe Biden calling on the United States, NATO allies, and the world to stand with Ukraine after its nearly year-long war with Russia. The president speaking before 30,000 people today in Warsaw, Poland, calling out Russian President Vladimir Putin by name, telling the people that Putin's war on Ukraine will fail. Now, during Putin's State of the Union address, State of the Nation address in Russia, he claims it was the U.S. who started the war. President Biden insisting the Russian president alone is responsible.
President Putin chose this war. Every day the war continues is his choice. He could end the war with a word. It's simple.
Putin also announcing Russia will temporarily pause its involvement in New START nuclear arms treaties, an Obama-era policy that limits the number of strategic nuclear warheads that the U.S. and Russia can use. Eat good, look good, feel good. It's a motto catchy enough to reel in almost anyone. Coming up, where you can enjoy a fresh meal and give back to the food bank in the process. It's part of Black Restaurant Week, and we're going to tell you all about it after the break.
It's no secret that being outside is beneficial to your health and can even boost your mood. And it's something that students at Bowden Academy know firsthand what they're trying to accomplish when we come back.
Myra Arthur here in the KSAT newsroom, and here's what we're working on for the news at 6 o'clock today. The families of 2 men murdered more than 6 years ago are looking for justice. One of the suspects in that case is finally on trial, and today the wife of one of the victims testified what she says she saw the night her husband was killed. Plus, during the Jim Crow era, African Americans didn't dare travel without the Green Book. It listed hotels, restaurants, and shops where they would be welcome. Some of those in San Antonio will be part of a tour tomorrow. Jesse DeGollado has that story coming up today on the news at 6.
Some lucky students at Bowdoin Academy on the east side breaking free of classrooms to study in the outdoors. It's Victoria Martinez's 5th grade class, which has put together projects to create sustainable outdoor learning spaces. It's a project that started after the students spent some time learning on a ranch.
We saw a really different transition when they came back into the classroom. They seemed a little down. They weren't as engaged. And so we started doing research on the benefits of outdoor learning.
Well, the students worked with an architect to plan and map out their ideas for the campus, and they're presenting those ideas to the superintendent and the administration tomorrow, arguing why these spaces will be better for students.
Black History Month in full swing, and starting next week, you can support Black-owned businesses and the San Antonio Food Bank all in one stop. Lem Dixon's the owner of Roots Salad Kitchen near Southtown. He's celebrating Black Restaurant Week and giving back while he's at it. Next week, a portion of his sales will benefit the food bank, which is constantly working to feed 100,000 people in 29 different counties in our area.
The restaurant industry is hard. There's nothing easy about it. So to highlight what we're doing, especially in the Black community during Black History Month, I think is great. It gives us a little boost that we need.
Black Restaurant Week kicks off Sunday, February 26th, runs through Monday, March 6th. You can read more about which businesses are actually participating on our website right now, KSAT.com.
You gotta love Lem's shirt. Eat good, feel good, look good. Certainly feels good out there.
Yeah, it sure does, especially if you like the spring-like conditions in February. I mean, look at that temperature, 85 degrees outside at the moment. So we're running well above average, and this is going to be a trend here for quite some time. You will notice some changes in the temperatures, but overall, we're looking above average. And tomorrow, actually, our hottest day, even warmer tomorrow. Windy for part of the day tomorrow. It's a unique situation where there's just this small chunk of the day tomorrow where you're really going to notice the wind. And then nuisance dampness ahead. More of that nuisance moisture you hear me talk about often. But let's talk about our high temperature trend. Tomorrow, we're up to 88 degrees for the high here in San Antonio. Keep in mind, the average is 69, and the record tomorrow is 93. Then we drop closer to 80 on Thursday. By Friday, we're right down to 70 degrees for the high temperature. Here's another thing you're going to notice that changes quite a bit just momentarily as we get into tomorrow, and that's the humidity. Dew points, they've been running in the low 60s for a good portion of the day today, and they're going to rise again overnight, and you're going to feel that humidity in the air. But let's look at our futurecast, because that dry West Texas wind is going to hit us tomorrow. Midnight, dew points low to mid 60s, so muggy and sticky, developing some low clouds, maybe even a little bit of fog. And for the morning commute, a little bit of morning fog and muggy with those dew points in the mid 60s. Then that dry West Texas air starts to move its way in, and by 10 o'clock it hits. And it just sweeps away that mugginess, and we have very dry air for the middle of the day and afternoon and evening tomorrow, with those dew points dropping down into the 20s. Now, of course, often when we get that west wind, you notice it. And from about 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. tomorrow, we'll have wind gusts likely between 30 and 35 miles per hour. So notice our wind gusts spike at 10 a.m. and I think even through about noon, 1 up to about 2, 3 p.m., we could still have some of those wind gusts in excess of 30 miles per hour. And then by tomorrow evening, sunset, barely even a breeze out there. So just a small chunk of the day, late morning through early afternoon, you'll notice those gusty winds. And it's important because not only will it be windy, but it's that dry west wind, that dry air with those gusty winds, very low relative humidity, in turn, higher fire danger in the sense that if there is a fire, it will spread rapidly. The weather is not going to cause a fire, but if somebody does ignite a fire out there, it will spread rapidly, especially west of I-35 and west of 281. Here's our overall pattern. There is some moisture out there. This upper level disturbance we were talking about yesterday, that little swirl near Phoenix and Tucson, that's going to be passing to the north of us, and in turn, the rain associated with it. Check it out in our featurecast. North, San Angelo, Abilene, Midland, Dallas, even down toward Waco, and that's as close as it's going to get to us. Yeah, we could have some fog in the morning, maybe a little pocket of drizzle, but that's about it with it. Dampness is on the way, but not beneficial dampness. The daily drizzle, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, even on into early Monday. But the real rain, unlikely. I mean, we're talking maybe 1/10 of an inch spread out over a 3 to 4 day period. That's it. Temperatures quickly. Cotulla at 92 along with Del Rio. 85 here in town, 79 Bernie, 87 Stinson, Pleasanton now at 90. We'll start the day tomorrow at 63. By noon, we're at 78, gusting to 35 miles per hour. Sunny for most of the day, making it well into the 80s. 89 Castroville, 90 Nixon and Floresville. And that's the warmest of the next 7 days. Tomorrow, upper 80s.
Look at those temperatures. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to have to get used to some new opponents now that UTSA is switching conferences, Larry.
Yeah, after 10 years in Conference USA, they're now going to play in the American Athletic Conference. And today, that conference released their upcoming football schedule. So we have UTSA's brand new schedule coming up. And head coach Greg Popovich of the Spurs talks about his good friend, Red McCombs, coming up.
Somebody we all know is 95 years old today, and it's not me. It's Red McCombs, 95. And since, this is our 50th anniversary, we wouldn't be having this without Red McCombs.
That was Pop back on Red McCombs' 95th birthday to kick off the Spurs' 50th anniversary season in Big Board Sports. Head coach Jeff Traylor and his Roadrunners found out their 2023 American Athletic Conference schedule today when the league announced the 112-game schedule as the conference begins its first season of competition as a 14-team league in 2023. The Roadrunners will play 8 American Athletic games in their debut season in the conference, 4 at the Dome and 4 on the road. UTSA will officially join the AAC on July 1st of this year. So they will start off the season with 4 non-conference games. Their season opener September the 2nd in Houston. Then they'll host Texas State and Army the following 2 weekends and will end their non-conference slate September 23rd at Tennessee. So they'll open American Athletic play October 7th and Temple. They will end their 8-game conference slate at Tulane on November 24th or the 25th. That's a flex game. And the AAC championship is scheduled for December the 2nd. We learned yesterday that Red McCombs passed away Sunday at home surrounded by his family. He was 95 years old. And as you heard Pop say at the top of the sportscast, the Spurs would not be celebrating their 50th season in the NBA without Red McCombs. He purchased an ABA team from Dallas and moved them here to the Alamo City. And the rest is history. The Spurs' 2022-23 regular season opener, it fell on October 19th on Red's 95th birthday. During his pregame presser that night, Pop shared this story about meeting Red.
He was my first boss, and I can remember still walking into Incarnate Word and seeing this big dude come in his giant cowboy boots and his fur coat and his big Texan hat. And I wondered, where the hell have I landed, that kind of thing. And he was the boss, and we all know what he's done, for the community and the state.
Big dude, fur coat, and a big hat. That would be pretty intimidating.
Well, yeah, and his love for the community, intense.
Absolutely.
Immense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love San Antonio.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry.
We'll be right back.
Check out tomorrow. Talk about feeling like spring. Upper 80s for a good portion of our area. 88 New Braunfels, 89 Castroville, downtown San Antonio about 88. And windy from about 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. tomorrow, gusts up to 35. Damp Friday through the weekend. Just drizzle, though.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for watching the News at 5.
World News up next. See you back here at 6.